Jason. Good morning. These are all my friends here today. This is so wonderful. I want to apologize to Rosalie for not introducing her at the very beginning as our presider. So I know, but still, it's like, I'm just working on how this all runs. So today our topic is our monthly theme that we've been using through the CSL Mothership is curiosity as a superpower. And last week, Reverend Mike talked about living in the flow. This week, we're going to talk about the world is an oyster. And I saw that. I'm like, that is such a bizarre topic. And Reverend Mike asked me, I think, Wednesday night, and I kind of looked for a second, and then I kind of put it off, and then thinking that's kind of a crazy topic. And then Thursday, something happened at work, and I was like, ugh. And then I went to research a little bit about this topic, and I'm like, oh, had I looked Wednesday night, it wouldn't have resonated as much. But then Thursday and Friday, when I was looking at it, what happened at work was, oh, I understand why this is a metaphor right now. So I was just like, a world is an oyster. In order for an oyster to grow a pearl, there has to be an irritation. I didn't know that. I'd learned a lot about oysters. I get this weekly email from a minister in Loveland, Colorado, where my brother lives. His name is Reverend Scott Aubrey, and he sends these great quotes and stuff according to the topics. And in his letter, he had some oyster facts. I thought it'd be kind of interesting because I didn't know this. Did you know that oysters have been around for 15 million years? 15 million years. They become an adult around 1 year, and they can live for 20 years. They can change their sex, and they do multiple times throughout their lifetime. And here we are all upset about this transgender bees, birds, bees, and here it is happening right here in our nature. So it's truly our nature. They breathe like fish. They have gills. I had no idea. I didn't even know they were alive. I mean, I knew they were alive, but I didn't know they were alive kind of thing. They are vegetarians, and they filter algae through, if Kitty was here, she'd be like, oh, that's what I need. Filter it through water, and they can filter 50 gallons of water a day. I mean, yeah, can you imagine drinking that much? They must be super healthy. And then the two things that I did not know is that they only can create the pearl, like I said, with an irritation. So no irritation, no treasure. I didn't know that. And the best way to open them is not with that shucking knife, but heat. If you heat them, they'll just simply open. So sometimes when we go through the furnace of life, that's when we become the most open. Wow, what a brilliant metaphor an oyster is. So what is an irritation? Well, that could be as simple as me, washing my hair last night and waking up and finding that little in my hair that all of a sudden which I didn't look at until like 10 minutes before I had to leave. I'm like, how do I get this kink out of my hair? It could be something as simple as that. But what are irritations? Irritations are rules and that we have established within ourselves are how life is supposed to be. That's what an irritation is. I know what the answer is, and I expect you to tell me what I need to know. Or you need to behave as I expect you to be. Because these are the rules that I've set for myself. But here we have about 12, 15 of us, and we all have our own little rules, right? And now we're in the room together, and now we need to interact. So how are we going to do this? And you know what? Maybe your rule might be a little bit better than mine, but I'm going to have to go through that fire to realize that maybe you do have the right idea. So Pema Chodron says, the feelings of irritation, resentment, and anger, instead of being bad news, are actually clear moments that teach us we're holding back. So when I go through that anger and upset, maybe there's that pearl inside of me that's just waiting to be discovered. And that's what I love about doing self-work. I had a wonderful lunch with our dear friend Kitty yesterday. And it's that time when you're sitting there just talking with your friend, and next thing you know, it's 2 hours later. You're like, wait, we just got here. Oh my God, but I put money in my meter. It's those kind of conversations that just spiritually enlighten us. What is that internal pattern that we've created that makes us get upset about something? Because we only get upset and irritated if it's something we haven't healed within ourselves. I like this next slide. It's called the Pearl Principle. No inner irritation, no pearl. So we just kind of got to go through that upset to really find our treasure. And in my conversation with Kitty yesterday, I came to the conclusion that sometimes for me, a challenging conversation means conflict. But really, it's just a conversation. But my need not to make people upset, and if I have to express my needs, my wants, my desires, that might be an irritation for someone else. And therefore, I'm going to go along to get along because I don't want to cause upset. So when are we talking to someone and we're afraid to express our truth? And we all have our own unique thing. I went to a restaurant one time. I like oysters. And I went to a restaurant, and do you want these East Coast, West Coast, this oysters? I'm like, what? There's all these different kind of oysters, and there's different shapes and sizes, and I had no idea. But my friend's like, oh, these taste better. I'm like, oh, okay. I just had no idea. But here we have all of us here in the room, and we're all our own unique oyster with our own story. So there was this quote, no two pearls are exactly alike. And this is because the oyster that produces them. As a result, a pearl truly is the autobiography of a specific oyster. So we are all our own unique oysters with a specific story that we're sharing. And we're sharing with each other. Right? What kind of oyster? Right, Margot, right? We all have our own. The 8 Enneagrams, like, what? The 4 Enneagrams, like, no. Oysters provide a really interesting metaphor for us to consider when it comes to maturing. I love Father Richard Rohr. In his book, Falling Upward, Spirituality for the Second Half of Life, Richard Rohr reminds us that the first half of life is about building our outer shell, our container. The second half, and the best part of life, is discovering the treasures that is inside of us. Our authentic self, our spirit, is hidden within. A great deal of growth that we experience, if we're willing, is caused by various irritants. The challenge that maturing brings us are opportunities for growth. Whether dealing with health issues, relationship, retirement, downsizing, or a myriad of other challenges, we face the challenges of frustration and irritation. This is how we're growing. This is how we're becoming our unique self. And it takes only 6 months to form a pearl. But the longer it grows, the larger and more beautiful it becomes. We, too, have the time to steep ourselves in our spiritual insights. Go into that irritation. Why does this bother me? What rules is this person breaking that I've established for myself? Because the treasure is really inside of us. There's no other place to discover the jewel, but we have to look inside. So really going and finding out. Like, have we had a situation in our life that it just felt like this is taking forever? I want it to change now, right now. Come on, make it over. Why have I felt like I've been in prison for my work situation for 10 years? Are you guys so tired of me talking about my frustrations at work? Because I know I'm really tired of talking about my frustrations at work. I really just don't want to talk about it anymore. But I like Bible stories because I think I feel you can find any situation in the Bible. So I was thinking about this story, and I thought about the story of Joseph, who he pissed off his brothers, and they threw him in a cistern. Actually, I have pictures here. So he pissed off his brothers, they threw him in this, in a hole, right? Then he sold him to some camel people, and then they went to the father with his, robes of color with goat blood. Sorry, your son's dead, right? So then he ends up going to the Pharaoh's house and helping the servant. And then the servant's wife makes a pass at him, and then he's falsely accused, and then they throw him in jail. And then while he's in prison, he starts interpreting the dreams of some of his prison mates. And then the Pharaoh's like, oh, I'm having these dreams. And next thing you know, he's now second in command, long story short. Second in command, and then there's a famine going on, and then his family comes to visit him, and like, oh, not knowing it's him, we need grain, and he's like, okay, and puts the quarter, silver, whatever is in the bag, and goes home, and then comes back. But then there's a happy ending because he feeds his family, everyone survives the famine, and he's second in charge after being thrown in a hole. So I'm sure he was pretty irritated about being thrown in the hole. And I'm sure he was pretty irritated about being in prison. But yet, after this long time, think about how big his treasure was. He was in prison and not very, probably irritated for a really long time. And now he's second in command and helping his family and loving his family. So even if your family's a slight irritant, sometimes, love you, Mom. Even if your family, but this is who teaches you. Your family and your relatives. If you're mad at your brother or your sister, or your other sister and your other sister, this is what helps us grow. This is really what helps us grow. So there's this quote. Hopefully I can turn it or not. Me and this clicker. Some give up under pressure while others rise up and undergo life-transforming experiences. The oyster responds beautifully to external pressure, giving birth to a priceless pearl. So are we going to let that pressure push us down and ruin us? Or are we going to take a seat and just kind of, okay, I'm going to pause. I can hold through this irritation. And one of my favorite quotes in the Bible is Psalms 23. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. So there's no saying that we're not going to go through this irritation and this pressure and this heat and this fire. And I know I've said this before, is that, the universe never said we weren't going to go jump in the fire, but the universe said, I'm going to get you through the fire. I'm going to give you a fire jacket to help you walk through the fire. I'm going to give you friends. I'm going to give you family. I'm going to give you a community that's going to carry you through the fire. Because when you go through the fire, as Rumi says, what strikes the oyster shell does not damage the pearl. So we might be bombarded with all this outside stuff, but our inner truth is never damaged. Our pearl is never damaged. It's our community that gets us through this. This is what we're here for. We're a community, and we're here to help each other. Something funny happened the other day. I was walking my dog in my neighborhood, and one of my neighbors has this puppy, well, it's a year-old, giant horse, but it's still a puppy. And I'm walking my dog, and this dog, Archie, the dog's name's Archie, this big standard poodle something mix, is running, having the heyday of life, running in the middle of the street. And I'm like, oh my God, where's Archie's mom? And I'm knocking on her door, and she's not answering, and they're doing construction, so I didn't even know if that door went to the house. And one of my neighbors is walking with her, carrying her infant child, and I take the leash off my dog, and I said, here, take my dog, and I go running after Archie. I don't even know my neighbor who I just handed my dog off with. And then I'm calling my other neighbor, and together, it took three of us to grab Archie. But that's what community does, is that we get together, and you leave your dog with some random neighbor helping the other neighbor's dog. But this is what we're coming to. So when we have irritants and such, this is what our community's for. We help each other. We run after that neighbor's dog, leaving our dog with some neighbor. Because our life is really, we're really meant to live in joy. It doesn't mean that life won't be easy or painless. It means we can turn our faces to the wind and accept that this storm will pass. We'll get through the storm. We cannot succeed by denying what exists. That's by Desmond Tutu, The Book of Joy. So it's really our opportunity to just reflect on this. Reflect on how we can release these irritants. Reflect on what I need to do to let go and just be my true pearl. So this is our job. This is what we're called to do. One is to release our frustrations, our irritations, and to support each other. You know how I like nature and I like cycles. I'm always talking about new moons and all this and such. Well, today's a new moon in Pisces, and yesterday the sun went into Pisces. And so the energy might feel a little bit more watery than it was. And did you know, I actually didn't really realize this, that Wednesday starts the Lenten season. There's Fat Tuesday, everyone's partying down in New Orleans. So catch a plane, get your beads, and you can go down there. And Lent is really the fasting season. It's a holy day of prayer and fasting. And Easter is calculated by it's the first full moon after the spring equinox, the first Sunday after, so we have the spring equinox, a full moon, and then the first Sunday is Easter, and then they do 40 days previous, and that's how we decide when Lent starts. And I have this little calendar here. So these are 40 days. So Lent refers to the lengthening of days during springtime. It comes from the English noun Lenten, meaning the season of spring. And so this is our time to release, let go, and just meditate on what we want to do. What can we do? Because we're not going to have an Ash Wednesday service, but this is our opportunity in our community to what's something that I can engage in, thinking, ways of being, fostering peace, gratitude, appreciation, self-compassion, as Rosalie beautifully talked about, personal growth, transformation, being of service. For the next 40 days, what can I do for self-compassion? What can I give up? What negative irritants can I release? So this is our really opportunity to let these things go. So I'm going to invite Jason to come back up, and I want us all to go inside. Think of something that we want to release these next 40 days, something that is no longer serving us. What do I want to embrace? What do I want to hold? Recognizing and knowing that I am a divine being having a human experience. Knowing that what is causing me irritants, how can I embrace and love it and thank it? Have this gratitude for all these irritants that are just my teachers, and saying thank you for being my teacher. So I just say, thank you for this opportunity to teach me, showing me the pearls of wisdom within me. And I just simply release anything that's no longer serving me into that nothingness, embracing my true nature of wholeness and perfection. And I just know for the next 40 days, I come through the fire as a brand new person, but still that same person I am. And I just say thank you, and so it is.